West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
It was an absolutely brutal day for Donald Trump in court. In his criminal trial, you can see his lawyer right here, Todd Blanche, just looking absolutely disgusted at Donald Trump as Donald Trump is giving these impromptu press conferences where he's just further swirling the drain and attacking the judge. He was apparently even defaming E. Jean Carroll and talking about justice and Goron. Like, it's quite frankly the ranting and ravings of a lunatic. It was also reported that Donald Trump appeared to continuously fall asleep during testimony. Here's how it was reported by Lisa Rubin and Alan Smith. Trump appears to have fallen asleep while listening to testimony, at times appearing to stir and then falling back to sleep. Trump's eyes were closed for extended periods and his head has at times jerked in a way consistent with sleeping. In other words, he was sleeping. Donald Trump arrived in court. He was told that he could attend Barron's graduation, to which we hear, this was a funny one, that Barron is apparently appealing Justice Merchan's ruling that Donald Trump may attend Barron's graduation to the Appellate Division First Department. Of course, I am joking, but Justice Merchan never told Donald Trump that he couldn't attend Barron's graduation. It was just Donald Trump who was whining about that. Also in attendance in court to watch Donald Trump fall asleep and watch the devastating testimony on Tuesday was Eric Trump, along with indicted Texas corrupt Attorney General and impeached Attorney General Ken Paxton was there as well. And then Donald Trump, after the trial, after Keith Davidson, the lawyer for Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, gave absolutely devastating testimony against Donald Trump, after a C-SPAN archivist showed up in court and authenticated videos of Donald Trump saying, "I don't know who these women are, this is all a lie," and videos of Donald Trump praising Michael Cohen, what a great lawyer he was. After all this stuff went down, showing what Donald Trump truly thought about Michael Cohen at the time. Of course, David Pecker testified last week that he was in the White House where Donald Trump thanked him for handling the Karen McDougal situation and the doorman situation. David Pecker said that Donald Trump told him he would be taking care of a payment to Michael Cohen. After all of that, this is what Donald Trump is saying. Donald Trump is saying that the proceedings are moving way too fast. They're going way too quickly. And then Donald Trump also says that no one's ever had to sit in court as long as he has, which is the whole thing absolutely makes no sense at all. Just again, take a look at what Donald Trump looks like right now at court. I mean, look at these photos of him. Look at what a deranged and just complete mess he looks like. This is what Donald Trump posted after trial on Tuesday. He goes, "This is a total witch hunt, hours of sitting down and listening to nothing except exoneration and lies. The trial is going like a speeding bullet because the judge is working hard to make all of his friends happy. Mershon is rigged, crooked, and above all and without question conflicted. It's a disgrace to our country. They've taken away my right to free speech, election interference. There he is again, whining about how long things are taking. Just again, so bizarre, and saying that it's moving like a speeding bullet. It's also going exceedingly fast. I mean, you gotta pick a side here, Donald Trump. Which one is it? By the way, here is Donald Trump after he left trial. Here's Donald Trump talking about how unfair things are, how upset he is. Just watch him whine for a second. Play this clip.
You have a judge who's totally conflicted, totally, absolutely conflicted, that he's rushing this case through. I'll tell you what, somebody just told me they'd never sat for such a long period of time in a courthouse before. It's ridiculous. I'm supposed to be in Georgia. I'm supposed to be in New Hampshire. I'm supposed to be in Ohio and lots of other places.
And here again, he attacks the gag order and says that the gag order is very unfair. Here, play that clip.
Thank you very much. This gag order is not only unique, it's totally unconstitutional. I'm the Republican candidate for President of the United States. I received this honor in record time. Nobody's ever gone faster. It's never happened. Nobody's ever got the numbers that we got. And I'm sitting in a courthouse all day long listening to this stuff.
Here is Lisa Rubin from MSNBC, and here she talks about the games and puzzles and ways that Donald Trump's lawyers are trying to keep Donald Trump awake so he doesn't keep falling asleep in front of the jury. Play this clip.
Really quickly, if I can, Lisa, your observations on Donald Trump today.
Sleeping. Again, you know, they have tried a number of different devices. Yeah, sleeping for a lot of it. I would say they've tried a number of different devices to keep Trump awake, partially in response, or what appears to be in response to collective press corps observations. So, for example, when there are sidebars, an attorney doesn't leave his side anymore because leaving him alone means leaving him to potentially sleep. He has a stack of papers with him at all times now to go through. But neither of those things seem to have protected Trump from his own exhaustion today. More than not, when I looked up to see how Trump was receiving the testimony, Trump was not receiving it at all because his eyes were closed.
And here, by the way, Donald Trump just randomly starts defaming E. Jean Carroll again. Here, play this clip.
And this judge is terrible, and Kaplan is terrible. Gave a person, I have no idea who she is, $91 million. This is a corrupt system we're in.
And then when he arrived in court earlier in the morning, he talked about having to go into an icebox. Play this clip.
So I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. And I'm going to go into the icebox now and sit for about 8 hours or 9 hours. I'd much rather be in Georgia. I'd much rather be in Florida. I'd much rather be in states that are in play, states that, I'd like to be able to campaign.
And here he is as well, saying that special counsel Jack Smith has his hands in a cookie jar. What? Here, play this clip.
And all of the cases are, frankly, all of them are. You probably saw last night that Jack Smith got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. It was released late last night, and it's a big story. The documents case is a hoax created by them for election interference purposes. And so that one looks like it's going asunder. A brilliant judge saw some facts, and I haven't read what was revealed yet. It just came out. But the document hoax is indeed a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax. All of them are hoaxes, including the civil cases. They're controlled by the White House. They're controlled by Democrat judges and prosecutors that were put there specifically. They hate Trump. And the people.
In any event, as our editor-in-chief Ron Filipkowski wrote, on the left you have MAGA cult Trump, On the right is what actual Trump looks like in trial. And then again, as you go through some of the testimony as well by, take a look at Keith Davidson, who was the lawyer for Karen McDougal, the lawyer for Stormy Daniels. Keith Davidson's text messages were just absolutely devastating. Here's what he had to say. Ultimately, Donald Trump was not paying Stormy Daniels pursuant to their deal. And one of the things that Keith Davidson was talking about was that I think that they was talking about with some of the AMI folks, the people on the National Enquirer, how it seems that the Trump impersonators spend more cash than Donald Trump. They were mocking Trump for being so frugal. I think one of the most important pieces of testimony that came out was when Keith Davidson said, when I was dealing with Michael Cohen, I understood that I was dealing with Donald Trump. That's who I understood. We had a copy of the settlement agreements with McDougal, and we have, Keith Davidson talking about all the contemporaneous things that were happening. Of course, you've got Donald Trump, videos of him at the same time from 2016 saying that, as I mentioned earlier, that he doesn't know who any of these women are and that it's all BS and he would never do any of these things. He's got the videos of him praising Michael Cohen. You've got Keith Davidson, again, just matter-of-factly walking through what went down, his dealings with Cohen, his dealings with Trump, his dealings with AMI, his dealings with Cohen on behalf of Trump, his dealings with AMI on behalf of Trump. And, he laid it all out there. You layer that on with David Pecker, you go through the text messages of them talking about the deal, the money hitting, and, I think it's devastating. I mean, also, we've learned that Donald Trump is pissed off at his lawyer, Todd Blanche. Trump is now venting about his lawyer. He wants his lawyer to be more aggressive and more assertive. This from the reporting by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan. While he may have been one of Trump's favorite lawyers in the past, Donald Trump is saying that he's not being aggressive enough. Donald Trump keeps complaining about the Todd Blanche not being aggressive. And notably, Alina Habba didn't deny the story. She simply said in a statement to the New York Times that Blanche is a crucial part of the legal team, and they left it at that. So on Thursday, there will be another contempt hearing. Donald Trump was found in contempt. Justice Merchan warned Donald Trump that he could be sentenced to jail for up to 30 days for future violations of the gag order. Well, we've got another gag order hearing, Trump violating gag order hearing, contempt hearing coming up on Thursday, tomorrow.
It is Wednesday, the 1st of May of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner, the English bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, the little Yorkie, is our door girl, and she will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. Will no one rid us of these meddlesome priests because they are quite meddlesome, don't you know? Okay, I have another confession to make. I don't know why, but just before we start to do the show, well, we'll say not just before, but in the half hour or so, I just get overwhelmed by tremendous grief thinking about my mom. So you'll have to excuse me. Some of these, long-winded, spontaneous rants might have to go by the wayside just so that I can, center myself. And we are going to do that by just, going through the newsread that we've curated for you. And we'll just do that in a moment, because I guess I will do whatever this spontaneous soliloquy is. But I keep finding myself actually doing the tasks that I've done for, the better part of 9 years. The tasks increased over time, of course, but there were times during the day that things happened. like getting her trilogy breathing thing into her at 6 a.m. I start walking into her room with that in hand. Oh, that's another thing. I stopped keeping her medicines next to her bedside because sometimes she'd take them and think that she'd already or hadn't already taken them. So I literally was giving her medicine towards the end to the point where she was like to just take all the pills at once and swig it down with a big slug of water. And she started choking on these pills. I'm going, Mom, you got to take them, a little bit at a time. So, I'd leave her to her own devices and she'd throw the whole load from the little pill holder, for the day right into her mouth and then choke on it and cough. And it was just uncomfortable for her. So, since her carotid surgery, I've been putting each pill onto her tongue like a priest here. I think I mentioned that already. I'm sorry for repeating. But I'm just saying that it's hard because these routines are baked in. I got to re-engineer the muscle memory. And it's just hard. Just really hard. And I guess you already know that. Okay, so the feelings of guilt remain. I could have been better. I could have been faster. I could have caught her. I could have kept her from getting out of bed. So, you all know that too. But we all do. And then we go through it, and there it is. And it's hard. It's hard to do. I succumb to it. And then if I hold it off, does that make me a craven individual? No. Should I even be thinking like that? So what happens is that I'm reduced to, pretty much heaving, sobbing tears. And it's not any way to be just before you're going to go into a public forum and let the show go on. I know. But I need something to hold on to, and cutting vegetables, preparing for a meal is one that I utilize. Of course, everybody works in the garden to calm themselves and center themselves. Doing one of those little Tibetan sand talisman things. That's always kind of fun. Mandala. There we go. Mandala. And then you scrape it all over into nothing and then start over again. And that's supposed to represent, death and renewal. Thanks. It's hard sometimes not to think that life sucks. I mean, what kind of existence is this? We live and we die. Thanks very much. If you're going to have chaos in the universe, couldn't we have, true immortality? Instead of the immortality that we bestow upon ourselves in this finite, little, tiny, minuscule moment in time. I'm an immortal just between these parameters. Thanks. Oh, well, I suppose instead of whining about it, it's better just to live one's life to the fullest. Be kind to others. Give a helping hand. Tell each other we love each other truly, rather than just some sort of greeting. How are you is a true question. And maybe the true answer is not, I'm okay. So, there you go. All right, well, what do we have in store for you in the curated part of the show? Because we have to. We must. Well, okay, you already know what happened there with the Medias guy. I'll call him the Medias guy at the top there. Well, for the rest of the menu in the Bistro Cafe as we begin, the southern Oregon coast is closer to building a floating offshore wind energy farm capable of powering 1 million homes after the Biden administration announced it is preparing to accept proposals for the area. Expect MAGA to hate it. Oh, you know they do. Tim Kennedy of New York is projected to win the special election for New York's 26th congressional district, temporarily shaving the GOP majority in the U.S. House to one seat. And an Alabama Senate committee voted to set aside money so that the states can reverse course and participate in a federal summer food program for low-income families with school-age children. I guess a lot of white kids were going to get kicked off the program, so they said, you know what? It's just before the election, you know. After the break, we moved to the chef's table, where the European Union said it is investigating Facebook and Instagram for not doing enough to protect users from foreign disinformation ahead of the EU-wide elections. I wish we could do that here. And Serbia's new government will include a former intelligence chief who has fostered close ties with Russia and is sanctioned by the United States. Not if Trump takes over, you know. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. I want to just mention Kelly, Ricky, and Tom and let them know that I do appreciate everything that you've done all these many years. And this operation has been run on a shoestring. We've put in a lot more money than we've ever been able to get out to pay our own bills. So sometimes we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, but I want to let you know that you guys are tops, and thank you so much for everything that you've done for me. And, well, you know, this last decade has been pretty tough, losing my son and now losing Mom. And I got to tell you, Dad's going to go too. Everything in a circle. Wow. Anyway, thank you guys. And I also want to thank folks out there in Netroots Radio listening land for also being generous with your, well, helping us pay our bills, and also for reaching out personally and in many cases becoming friends. So thank you very much for being who you are. It's helped a lot. So why don't we go ahead and tuck into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Smothered Benedict Wednesdays, by the way, and it is by Monica Samoya from Oregon Public Broadcasting. The southern Oregon coast is closer to hosting floating offshore wind energy after the Biden administration announced it is preparing to accept proposals for the area. This is the first step in a multi-year process before any wind developer could begin construction, but you can trust me. We already have people who are just really upset. I got to say, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, I don't know. But there's some tribes that are very much against it too, because I don't know. Well, I understand the concern, but okay. Anyway, yesterday, Tuesday, the U.S. Department of Interior's Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, or BOEM, B-O-E-M, BOEM, proposed an auction for developers seeking floating offshore leases to develop wind energy in 2 locations off the coast of Southern Oregon. The announcement kicks off 2 opportunities for the public to comment on the proposal. on the areas that would be developed and on the federal government's draft environmental assessment. I don't think any whales are going to get hurt. It's not going to kill birds. Just saying. All right. I think there's more damage from Fukushima radioactive wastewater than there are from the wind farms. Just saying. Ocean areas approved for wind energy development off the coast of Coos Bay and Brookings, which were finalized in February, total nearly 195,000 acres. There, offshore wind could have the potential to power more than 1 million homes with renewable energy. See, it's pretty windy out there. Why don't we utilize it? Now, we've already had floating, wave action turbines. But for some reason, MAGA has decided that since Trump didn't want to have a wind farm off his Scottish golf course and he made such a stink about it, they have to as well. But the federal push to advance offshore wind has also prompted concerns from tribal leaders and commercial fishing groups about impacts on the marine environment and broader concerns along the southern Oregon coast at the speed of federal action before a state effort to guide offshore wind is in place. Federal officials said development will take years, and I might add years and years and years. And there will be time to incorporate Oregon's roadmap as long as the state meets its own deadline. Ozzy Pabera of the Washington Post brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. State Senator Tim Kennedy, a Democratic candidate, is projected to win the special election for New York's 26th congressional district, according to the Associated Press. Kennedy defeated Republican Gary Dixon, a town supervisor in the upstate New York district that includes the cities of Buffalo and Niagara Falls, and will serve out former Democratic Congressman Brian Higgins' term, which ends in January. Higgins was first elected to the House in 2004, resigned his seat in February to take a job leading a performing arts center in the Democratic-leaning district. When Kennedy is sworn in as a member of the House Democratic Conference, it will temporarily shave the chamber's Republican majority to one seat, leaving a small margin of error for party line agenda items. House Republicans hold 217, and Democrats with Kennedy will have 213 seats with 5 vacant seats. A liberal Democrat who ran with the support of the Working Families Party, Kennedy served as a state legislator since 2011 and dominated the congressional race against Dixon financially. He spent more than $1 million on the race compared with Dixon, who spent around $21,000. Even the RNC hated him, according to the latest campaign disclosure reports. Kennedy is also running for the seat's full term in 2024. I just want to mention in closing, upstate New York, Niagara Falls, and Buffalo are not liberal bastions by any means. A lot of MAGA in that world, and this guy won. Staff at the Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. An Alabama Senate committee yesterday, Tuesday, voted to set aside money so that the state can reverse course and participate in a federal program that gives summer food assistance to low-income families with school-age children. Alabama was one of 14 states that declined to participate in the Summer EBT, or Summer Electronic Benefit Transfer Program for children. It provides families $40 per month to spend on groceries for each child who receives free or reduced price school lunches during the school year. The program aims to augment summer meal sites to help combat food insecurity during the summer months. The Senate Finance and Taxation Education Committee voted to allocate $10 million to the Education Trust so that the state can participate next year. The spending bill now moves to the full Senate for review. Alabama participated in the pandemic version of the program. Congress in 2022 made the program permanent and effective this summer. States split the program's administrative costs, but the federal government pays for the food benefits. Advocacy groups have urged lawmakers to fund the program, and they did. All right, that brings us to our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. This week, the war at home. At times, Alex Garland's latest movie, Civil War, feels almost too real. For some, it may not be a question of if it happens, but when. Set in an alternative present, the film focuses on a group of photojournalists who are road tripping from New York to D.C. Led by long-term veteran of the biz, Lee, the always-on-point Kirsten Dunst, and arguably her best performance to date, the group knows this isn't going to be an easy journey, as it just so happens the U.S. is in the midst of a civil war. Tagging along for the ride is aspiring young photojournalist Jessie, Kaylee Spaney, who's an obvious foil for the weary Lee, and veteran Sammy, played by Stephen McKinley Henderson, who convinces the group to drop him off in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is apparently a hotbed of activity. We're never told the reasons for the war, although it is implied that it's due to political divisions, but that really isn't the point of the movie. Garland avoids naming the good versus the bad side, which is a wise choice. The sense of terror that these supposedly neutral documentarians face as they make their perilous journey is palpable, and the film raises questions about the importance of, and indeed the duty of, journalism in general, including whether it's ever possible to merely observe but do nothing. The signs of PTSD that all these characters exhibit suggest that even those who try to remain neutral don't emerge from such trauma unscathed. Civil War is a powerful, thoughtful film that feels much needed right now. It's not a feel-good movie in any sense, but hopefully it will get some of the mass audience it's attracting to think about just how thin the line between political discourse and violence that can cause the unraveling of everything can be. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. Catch up with us at TakeTwoMovieReview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
In 1912, a volcano in Alaska more than blew its top. Known as Nova Erupta, it was responsible for the most powerful volcanic eruption of the 20th century.
And the reason we care about the big eruptions because they're also the ones that scale to the biggest hazards and biggest impacts, both locally and regionally, sometimes globally.
Christy Wallace is a research geologist with the U.S. Geological Survey at the Alaska Volcano Observatory.
We often don't have access to the deep history, the old history. We only have the last 10 or 12,000 years. Glaciers wiped everything else away. And so because we can't study those, we can't really speak to the biggest eruptions through the history of the volcano.
Now scientists believe they've found a way to sleuth out the deep history of volcanoes such as Nova Rupta, and they're doing it with artificial intelligence. You're listening to Scientific American's Science Quickly. I'm Emily Schwing. Nova Rupta dramatically reworked the surrounding landscape and buried nearby communities in more than 2 feet of ash. Nova Rupta is a volcano 6 miles away from another powerful volcano, Mount Katmai. And this wasn't the only time one of these volcanoes proved itself a powerful and dramatic volcanic force.
When we applied our model to 800,000 years of ash layers in the Gulf of Alaska, we saw that Katmai was responsible for producing a lot of the eruption deposits in these marine cores, going all the way back to 800,000 years. And they looked almost identical geochemically to the 1912 eruptions.
Jordan Lovers is a third-year postdoctoral fellow and geologist with the U.S. Geological Survey. And those ash layers he's talking about, they're called tephras.
And so we have a lot of tephra layers, in the Gulf of Alaska that we don't know where they came from.
Jordan says tephras are like a volcano's fingerprint.
Can we identify a way that these volcanoes all have their own unique kind of geochemical fingerprint, and then use that fingerprint to apply to ash layers that we don't know the source volcano, to kind of better reconstruct a long-term volcanic history of Alaska and the surrounding region.
There have been lots of large tephra producing eruptions in Alaska and northwestern Canada, but they're hard to get to.
A lot of the locations that we're going to research these volcanoes are not accessible by road, needs either plane or helicopter travel or something like that. So the fieldwork is quite challenging. I guess that makes us somewhat sample limited in that we don't have as much information as maybe we would like from these volcanoes, because we don't have a lot of time to go put boots on the ground at these volcanoes to learn about them.
And there's another challenge. When glaciers started to retreat at the end of the last glacial maximum, they wiped away evidence of large tephra-producing eruptions in the far north. You can think of Jordan and his colleague Christy as volcano detectives. They're trying to link tephras with their source volcanoes. And now they're using machine learning, AI, as their magnifying glass. They've created a model that uses existing data from tephras.
And then use this machine learning technique to say, okay, this is what's erupted in the last 10,000 years. How can you do a good job? Can you train the model to tell us where these much older deposits come from, hundreds of thousands of years old potentially? Do they link back to these same volcanoes? And then we can go back to that, let's say, Katmai or any one of our 130 volcanoes that we're dealing with. Can we then really tell the true story of the volcano?
Their findings were published in November 2023 in the journal Geochemistry, Geophysics, Geosystems. Jordan says using AI also means they have a more accurate way to differentiate among individual volcanoes.
A lot of these volcanoes are quite similar. And the human eye, or like classical statistics, might confuse them and mix these things up. But what machine learning basically allows us to do is kind of think about things in many more dimensions. And we give it the data from all of these volcanoes, and then we give it the answers that we know. Like, we collected this sample from this volcano, so we know that that's where it erupted from. Now come up with a set of rules to then tell us what makes all of these volcanoes unique. And that's really the power here, is that it's able to kind of better classify unknown eruptions.
Both Jordan and Christy say they'll continue training their model to strengthen its accuracy and to better understand AI-generated answers to their source volcano inquiries. Jordan says work like this is useful not only in Alaska and the surrounding region, but anywhere volcanic activity is a known threat to public safety.
All volcanic arcs are slightly different, and so this is what a machine learning model would figure out. It would figure out maybe a new set of rules that's different for the Andes, that's different for Sumatra, that's different for Kamchatka, that's different for Italy. But with proper data handling and, good logical tests and expert opinions from geologists in that area, there's no reason that this can't be applied elsewhere.
And Christy says the new tool could also be useful across disciplines in the scientific research community.
When you're looking at tephra deposits, they represent an isochron, so a single time in history. It's instantaneous. It falls to the ground and it tells you time. It gives you a sense something happened at a specific time. And basically they link marine records, lacustrine records, so in lakes, with terrestrial records. And so it helps you to understand, ice ages and climactic events or archaeological time frames or when peoples were moving around. There's all sorts of context that it could put things into.
And that context could be key to a new understanding of how massive eruptions like the one at Nova Rupta changed life for the people who lived through them.
This is the first time that the geochemical data has been published. And so now people who are working all across the state, even globally, have access to these data and they can now correlate the tephras back to a location and an age. That's really, really powerful.
Maybe even as powerful as the volcanic eruptions themselves. Scientific American's Science Quickly is produced by Rachel Feltman, Kelso Harper, Karen Leong, Madison Goldberg, and Jeff Delvicio, and edited by Madison Goldberg, Ella Fader, Alexa Lim, and Anesa Ruiz Tejada, with fact-checking by Shayna Posis and Aaron Shattuck. Our theme music was composed by Dominic Smith. For Science Quickly, I'm Emily Schwing.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes, their age, the way they speak? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a single father of 2 who works 3
part-time jobs and still can't put enough food on the table?
Or maybe a mother who cleans offices at night,
hoping to find meeting leftovers to take home to her hungry family.
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing
a job and getting back on his feet.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you wanna come and text us,
if you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music.
This is Mommy's jam.
Then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo. Do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. Our Dark Money series has explored how member stockholders of limited liability corporations can use LLCs to hide their political donations. Now we'll see how the wealthy use LLCs to circumvent a state's personal contribution limit. Let's say you're a real estate developer and own multiple properties, each registered as an LLC. You've personally given the maximum allowed by your state, but want to give more. Enter the LLC loophole. In many states, your LLC is allowed to donate too, so you can give tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands more to your candidate. In New Hampshire, Republican Governor Chris Sununu received a pipeline of campaign cash from developers, real estate companies, and other businesses over multiple campaign cycles. In his 2016 race, 17 LLCs donated $7,000 each, controlled by one Dunkin' Donuts franchisee. In 2020, a real estate mogul used 4 LLCs to donate $20,000. Just last year, Democratic New York Governor Kathy Hochul accepted 5 $5,000 donations from LLCs tied to a single wine distributor, according to independent news site New York Focus. That reporting shows Hochul received $150,000 from LLCs tied to just 9 corporations. This, despite New York's new campaign finance law designed to stop rich donors from getting around the rules. More on that tomorrow. We have articles and explainers at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1919. That was the day May Day celebrators in Cleveland, Ohio were attacked as they marched to protest the imprisonment of socialist Eugene V. Debs. 1919 was a year of massive upheaval, marked by countless strikes and protests, riots, and bomb threats. But much of the country was still caught up in the jingoism of the war. Debs had just entered prison to serve a 10-year sentence. He had been convicted in Cleveland of sedition for an anti-war speech he gave in Canton, Ohio the year before. Thousands of trade unionists, anarchists, socialists, and communists marched toward Public Square in downtown Cleveland. Prominent socialist Charles Rutenberg led one of the contingents. He planned to address the rally in defense of Debs and also to promote his candidacy in the upcoming mayoral elections. May Day marchers carried red flags and American flags and banners reading, "Workers of the World Unite." Liberty Loan workers stopped them en route, demanding they lower their flags. Marchers refused and attempted to proceed towards downtown. Fighting broke out in the streets and lasted for hours until mounted police and army tanks charged the crowd. 2 were killed, at least 40 seriously injured, and as many as 120 were arrested. Rutenberg was charged with assault with intent to kill, though charges were later dismissed. Socialist Party headquarters were ransacked. The city immediately moved to restrict parades and socialist meetings and banned red flags. Local newspapers were quick to scapegoat immigrants and their supported Bolshevik sympathies for the riot. The attack in Cleveland served as an early warning of the Red Scare that would fully erupt by the end of the year. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 48 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting highs around 70, maybe a tad lower or maybe a tad higher. A mix of clouds and sun throughout the day with winds out of the north-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then cloudy with occasional light rain tonight, lows around 48. Winds out of the west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And then rain showers early tomorrow morning with some sunshine later in the day. Highs again near 70 degrees. Winds out of the west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. It looks like we'll be getting something a little less than a quarter inch of rain tonight and tomorrow. Grass pollen is rated high right outside the window here in Rogue River. The air quality index is in the good range at 23 parts per million. And that daytime UV index is high at level 7. Take care. Barometric pressure is falling at 30.28 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles and relative humidity is at 95%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. And that literally is the Weather Underground. That little weather station near city center in London is registering 67 degrees and cloudy. Paris, which is actually more around the 7th arrondissement, yeah, I know, is now 70 degrees and partly cloudy with a thunderstorm advisory. I should also mention London as well has a thunderstorm advisory. Rome is 62 degrees with rain and a thunderstorm advisory. Kabul is 55 and clear. Hong Kong is 61 and cloudy. Tokyo is 53 degrees with rain. Melbourne, Victoria, Australia is 52 degrees and clear, and they've lifted their sheep grazier advisory. So that's nice. Their sheep are doing just fine. San Francisco, California is 56 degrees and sunny with a small craft advisory on the bay and offshore with gusts over 40 miles per hour. Chicago, Illinois is 70 degrees and sunny, and New York is 65 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Chan of the Associated Press World Desk brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. The European Union said yesterday, Tuesday, it is investigating Facebook and Instagram for violation of the bloc's digital rule book, including not doing enough to protect users from foreign disinformation ahead of the EU-wide elections. The European Commission, the EU's executive arm, said it is opening formal proceedings into whether parent company Meta Platforms breached the Digital Services Act, a sweeping set of regulations designed to protect Internet users and clean up social media platforms under threat of hefty fines worth up to 6% of annual revenue. European authorities are scrambling to safeguard elections amid official warnings that Russia is seeking to meddle with the vote in June when citizens of the bloc's 27 nations pick lawmakers for the European Parliament. The investigation includes an urgent request for Meta to provide information about its move to discontinue a key tool for monitoring elections. We have a well-established process for identifying and mitigating risks on our platforms, Meta said in a statement. We look forward to continuing our cooperation with the European Commission and provide them with further details of this work. Sounds like an AI that hasn't really been fully intellectualized yet. Meta is being scrutinized for a suspected breach of DSA obligations to protect integrity of elections, European Commissioner Thierry Breton said in a social media post. The Commission said it is looking into whether Meta is doing enough to curb the spread of deceptive advertisements, disinformation campaigns, and coordinated inauthentic behavior that could pose a risk to electoral processes and consumer protection. Officials said they suspected Meta's content moderation system for advertisements was inadequate, allowing ads made with generative AI, including deep fakes, to exploited by malicious foreign actors seeking to meddle in elections, even as the company makes money from them. As experts worry that new generative AI systems could be used to disrupt the many elections being held around the world this year by supercharging the ability to spread disinformation at scale. World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. Serbia's new government will include a former intelligence chief who has fostered close ties with Russia and is sanctioned by the United States, the country's prime minister-designate said yesterday, Tuesday. Alexander Vulin will serve as one of several vice premiers, said Milos Vucevic, as he announced the composition of his future cabinet, which is expected to be voted into office in the coming days in Serbia's parliament. Serbia is formally seeking European Union membership, but has maintained friendly relations with Russia and has refused to join Western sanctions against Moscow over its war in Ukraine. The inclusion of Vulin into the new government suggests strengthening of ties with Russia despite Serbia's formally proclaimed pro-EU path. Opposition movement of Free Citizens Party said that by including Vulin in the new government, Serbia is no longer nominally on the European path. The Liberal Party said that Vulin's nomination heralds international isolation of Serbia, conflicts in the region, ties to Russia, and the introduction of bans on all civil liberties in our country. In July, the U.S. imposed sanctions on Vulin, accusing him of involvement in illegal arms shipments, drug trafficking, and misuse of public office. The U.S. Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control said Vulin used his public authority to help a U.S.-sanctioned Serbian arms dealer move illegal arms shipments across Serbia's borders. Vulin is also accused of involvement in a drug trafficking ring, according to U.S. authorities. Vulin has recently received 2 medals of honor from Russia, one from the Russian Federal Security Service, and the other was awarded to him by Vladimir Putin himself. Vucevic, the new prime minister designate, previously served as Serbia's defense minister. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Metro Shrimp and Grist Thursdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goer. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. De novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.